how's it going, Kumi Gang? I know it's been a while. I'm sorry my upload schedule has been kind of inconsistent, but hopefully next week that starts to get back on track to where it was. But today, I wanted to share with you guys the shotgun that broke me, and that is the Lockwood 300. Now, back in Modern Warfare 2022's version of Warzone, this thing was actually a menace. I mean, it's got an incredible time to kill, 2 quick shots, crazy with Dragon's Breath, such a great shotgun for a lot of reasons in an otherwise weird game. But if we fast forward to current day, this thing has just kind of become a mere shadow of its former self, to be poetic as possible. And really, it's just kind of a shotgun that in using has kind of broken my spirits just a tiny bit. And I want to explain why it's so bad, if there's anything good about it, and also what I would do to kind of buff it up to where it needs to be. So if that sounds good to you guys, let's just go ahead and hop right into it. So first off, let's talk about why it's so bad. If you've been watching my content, you know where I'm going with this, but one of the big reasons this is so bad is because there's different damage when you hip fire versus when you aim down sights. Most shotguns cap your damage overall at 4 pellets, which is standard, but with the Lockwood 300, if you're hip firing, it's only capped at 3, and then if you aim down sights, it's bumped up to 4. What this means is that if you were hip firing someone, you cannot 2-shot someone with a gun that only has 2 shots past maybe the 2 to 3 meter mark. It's just not possible with the damage you do. You have to aim down sights, and when you aim down sights, I will say you have some pretty good range with a 2-shot of about 7 meters, and if you have a big barrel like the A12 barrel on, it takes it out to about 9 meters. So it can be very, very good if you were fully aiming down sights, but even then it's a bit inconsistent. Now, if you do manage to score a 2-shot, your time to kill is actually ridiculously good, and for most people, they'd probably say it is broken, and it's about a 350 millisecond time to kill, which does kill about 100 milliseconds faster than the Renetti before it got nerfed just a few days ago, to kind of give you guys some perspective on that. So even though you can aim down sights to get a really good 2-shot range, one of the other really difficult things about this gun, no matter how you kit it out, is that your aim down sight speed is so slow. Some of these builds have 400 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds. Even if you're kitting it out for pure aim down sight speed, this is a Modern Warfare 2 gun, so there's not a lot of good attachments to do it with. And honestly, you end up with a shotgun that takes forever to get up, and you have to be aimed down sights. So you end up with a situation where in some engagements, you just kind of have to pre-aim with it, which is really dumb. I really dislike that, having to do that all the time. It's sort of like quick scoping, but having to use 2 shots, which is kind of annoying. So it's just kind of adding to the frustration of using this gun. Now, back in the day, the big secret to making this thing work was having Dragon's Breath, because Dragon's Breath made the damage consistent, and between hipfire and aim down sights, there really wasn't any discrepancies. But now it seems like there is sort of a discrepancy. It could be the burn, but it seems like whenever I shoot hipfire, the damage is a little bit different than aim down sights. And also the burn is very inconsistent. And on top of that, the range for Dragon's Breath was reduced not too long ago. So if you're looking to get a 2-shot with that big barrel on and you have Dragon's Breath, your 2-shot burn is out to only about the 6.3 meter mark. And that's not even an immediate 2-shot. It's basically tap, tap, and then there's a slight delay, and then a burn kills the enemy. And so what will end up happening with the inconsistent burn is that you hit your 2 shots, you think they're gonna die, but they don't. So you end up kind of just staring at them. You kind of have to switch guns real quick and shoot them, but it gives the enemy a little bit of a chance to fight back, which is no bueno, and honestly one of the more difficult things about this gun to get a consistent 2-shot. Now, the Doom bundle is really fun. It's a great bundle because it has basically no recoil, clear sights. It looks really fun. It's a Doom shotgun, for God's sakes, but it's super slow to aim down sights. On the flip side though, you can 2-shot out to about 9 meters, which is ridiculously good, but of course the damage mechanic applies to this as well, so it's very inconsistent. Now, I've talked a lot about this gun so far. I've kind of just been rambling about it, but now I want to talk about the fact that this gun probably needs a little bit of an overhaul, specifically in Warzone. This is Warzone specific, by the way, if you haven't noticed. I would say that the big thing to do is remove that discrepancy between hipfire and aim down sights damage. I love the mechanic. I love the idea of it. I'd love to see it implemented in different ways, specifically maybe for more of those frustrating spammy shotguns people have to play against. Maybe that's a good way to utilize them to make you have to be more accurate with them. But I think that this gun that only has 2 shots and a slow reload doesn't need to be one that has this kind of ability with it. Now, if for whatever reason they do make it to where it's consistent hipfire and aim down sights damage, I could see them reducing the 2-shot range, so it's not quite as far as 9 meters. Maybe it's more close to 5 to 7 with attachments, but it's super consistent with its 2-shot potential, and it's actually very viable. Another thing I would love to see is that the aim down sight speed should be buffed up by a good bit. This thing has no business being this slow at the 400 millisecond mark for aiming down sights. That is just kind of insane to me and just does not need to be a thing with this particular shotgun, and it really discourages an aggressive playstyle. It makes it to where if you do want to use this thing, you're going to be a guy sitting in a corner pre-aiming, and that's just no fun for anybody. So I would say the aim down sight speed is very important, and you really need to buff this up, especially if they don't change the aim down sights versus hip fire damage mechanic. Now, at the very least, one thing they could do to make it actually usable is if they didn't want to buff the gun itself and they wanted to keep this weird damage mechanic, take that baby barrel, that really small like sawed-off barrel, and buff it. Make it to where it's consistent like it was with the 725 in Warzone 1. I'm so sad they didn't just bring that over to this shotgun since everything else about it is pretty much ported over. But basically with that barrel in Warzone 1, it was 150 damage, super consistent, and it was two-shotting consistently out to about 4.5 meters. I would love to see that come back. Just basically copy and paste it. I really don't care. Just copy and paste that mechanic, bring it back to this sawed-off barrel, and bam, you have a perfect sawed-off shotgun that takes 2 shots, is very quick, very consistent, and works well if you're a good player without being too oppressive. That's my pick. I would love to see that happen. Also, I want to talk about the dual trigger. Now, the big question is this thing ever coming back for Warzone? It's in multiplayer, and it's actually pretty damn good in multiplayer, but in Warzone, it's likely never coming back, which is really sad. Now, the big question for it is, should it be one-shotting? And while I do think, yes, it should probably have a pretty limited range. We're talking 3 meters max if you stack attachments. One-shot guns like this can be very oppressive and really annoying to die to. I completely understand that. So I would say if it does come back and it one-shots, make it very, very small for that one-shot range where it's basically melee distance. Or another fun solution that I kind of like the idea of that takes a little bit more skill is don't make it a one-shot, but instead bring it back to where it does about 250 damage per shot. But in that max damage range, that range extends out to maybe 5, 6, 7 meters, whatever, something ridiculous, so that you have this very consistent damage output of really high damage, but you have a really bad time to kill. It's essentially going to be a pump action, so you have to be really good with your cat and mouse gameplay, and if you can make it work, you can really wreak some havoc in some lobbies, so long as you have the movement for it. And I would really like to see that, because I think that'd be a fun way to balance this thing out, make it to where no one's complaining about it being an insta-kill, but it does a ton of damage, it's a 2-shot, and if you can move, it's gonna wreak some havoc. So I've kind of rambled on, but that's basically all I have to say about this gun. It did break me. It was really frustrating to use. There were some fun moments with it. Occasionally I'd get some death comms about it. I don't know why someone would trash talk something like this. I mean, just why? But yeah, now I want to know down below in the comments, what is everyone's thoughts on this shotgun in Warzone? Do you guys like it in Warzone? Do you think it's actually fairly good and I'm just full of crap? Do you think it's really, really bad like I do? Possibly one of the worst guns in the entire game, one of the worst base guns at least. How would you buff this thing if you wanted to see it buffed? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.